quarterback situation is probably going to be the one we could discuss. So here's the draft.
Yeah.
Colbert listed the 2022 draft class strengths. Actually, this has to do with the quarterback.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So he says strengths and weaknesses. Wide receiver, tackle, cornerback, and outside linebacker are deep positions, guard, center, D tackles, not so deep. And then Colbert said the Steelers expect to receive one additional compensatory pick sometime in early March. All right, this is for the quarterback situation, though.
Yeah.
Dwayne Haskins, we're going to tender. We already understand that. Then he goes on the QB competition.
He didn't say we were tender. He said more than likely we should be tender. I think that's what he said, right?
Expects team.
Yes.
This gives Steelers two QBs right now. Yeah, pretty much.
We better tender. I mean, we need tender. What we do?
Now we're getting spicy here. Colbert on QB competition. Can we add to that process from the outside? Yes. We can always look at trades. We always look at unrestricted groups, potential cuts down the road. We know we are going to add to that position. And then goes on to say about Mason Rudolph. Hold on, let me pull this up. I'm so disorganized right now.
No, you're good, bro.
Colbert's final season. No, well, they don't have the Mason Rudolph quote.
Hold on, I got
Basically,
you.
He said,
No, I got you.
I got it. I got it off the top of my head. Basically, he said, with Mason Rudolph, we are good with him as the starter as of right now. He was 5-4-1 as a starter. We feel good about that. We think he could start in the league. We're excited about him going forward. That was basically what the quote is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's talking about addressing the quarterback position. So this is interesting to me. It feels like they're confident in Mason, but at the same time, we're going to add to the room.
Yeah, so essentially the way I kind of interpreted it, man, was this. Like you said, they are confident that if they don't score a bigger name quarterback, whether it's through trade, free agency, or the draft, they still feel that, man, we can still be competitive with Mason. We can still win games with Mason or Haskins. I also thought that he was very telling in the sense of, yes, I like that we potentially have competition in-house, but he was not 100% sold on either candidate either. And that's something that I also like because it just makes it feel like they have an open mind. You know, and that was my biggest thing because I just felt like at times before we would hear Kevin Colbert speak or before we got more information about them really scouting Malik Willis, right, or really being excited about potentially having a mobile quarterback, it just seemed like it was going to be a foregone conclusion that it was Mason Rudolph. And we didn't even know what Haskins was going to get in terms of opportunity. Whereas now, the more we hear Kevin Colbert speak on that quarterback position, he said, don't rule it out about us going to get a quarterback. And that was the part for me earlier on when we were talking. He was like, I just don't think we're going to do it. I'm like, bro, when Kevin Colbert says don't rule it out, legit, do not rule it out.
I don't think it's going to be the big name guy, but I'm liking what you're saying.
Well, because think about this though, right? But think about this. Think about this. No one thought we would trade first round picks to get a Minka Fitzpatrick. No one thought we would move up in the draft to go get Devin Bush at 10. No one thought that when Joe Hayden became a late cut that we would go out there and pay him. So for me, I say to myself, man, I think that if the situation presents itself and it makes sense, I fully believe that Kevin Colbert will pull a trigger on one of those guys, man. And I'm fine with it. But I don't think that he's just going to go out here and just put all his eggs in that basket. And I think that's the part that makes people a little bit, just uneasy because it's hard to put him in a hole in the sense of, hey, man, he's going veteran quarterback or he's staying in-house or he's definitely drafted. We just don't know because he's done a really good job of keeping all those options on the table and really highlighting the pros and cons to each of those options. When he talks about having that salary cap the way that it is, he speaks of that because he knows to get a big fish quarterback, you're going to need big fish money. And they have that right now. But he also knows that, hey, man, we've been looking at this quarterback class. And he said, even though it's not viewed like how it is in other years, they still are quality players. So it lets me know that he still feels confident that, if one of those guys are available, that, maybe he can get it done with them. But I also like the fact that he said, man, in-house, we got two guys that have started games. Mason has started in the NFL. Dwayne Haskins has started in the NFL. He said, if there's not for anything else, at least the competition between those two guys, like, if you at least have competition for me, I say, man, that is going to ultimately bring out the best in both of those guys, or it should at least, right? So that's why, like I said, for me, I just took it as I don't think that he's closed the door on anything. I just think that he was really trying to hit the main point of We can go free agent quarterback. We can go trade for a guy. We can draft a guy. But even if we don't, we still feel confident that what we have in-house is good enough that we'll be in the conversations. Now, granted, we would have to do some other things around these positions, but I just think that he still has a regular belief in Mason.
Probably the best way to put it, probably the best thing for him in terms of giving the vote of confidence in Mason and also saying we're staying open, because if he just says, we're open to it, we're going to do, we might do trade, we might do free agent, then it's like, oh man, you're not even talking up the dudes you have on the roster already.
Well, because
I think
think about this though, Deke.
Both a little bit.
I was gonna say, think about this, Deke. How many guys have we actually talked about that right there? Speaking on the quarterback position and not mentioning Mason, we talked about T.J. Watt, we talked about Cam Hayward, we talked about Najee Harris, and it was like none of those three guys said anything wrong. They just talked about it from an outside perspective. Man, if we're gonna bring a guy in or draft a guy. Well, Kevin Colbert just said, okay, I'm just going to make sure I mention our in-house guys first and then say the exact same things that everybody else said. But we can see the reaction to it is way better because it was like, oh, okay, well, at least he does believe in these guys that we have. They're not just here to be here. So that is a positive.
Well, better. Depends on who you ask. Some people aren't thrilled about
That's
it.
the truth, right?
I guess maybe I took it more as, hey, we're going to be rolling with Mason this year. We're not going to situation.
Don't take it like that,
but
man.
You're sounding really hopeful right now.
Because
you got a feeling.
Well, put it like this, man. Anytime Kevin speaks, typically, it makes sense to me. And I can kind of, just from being around him and working with him, obviously, it's like, man, I could just see how his mind works in a sense, and just hearing his comments, and especially, how he was very critical in his words about Mason. Not saying that, hey, we're crowning him as the starter, but we're simply saying that, hey, we think that he could still help us. If it started today, he could be our guy. And also, I like the fact that he included, this is ultimately Coach Tomlin's decision. Because, hey, if we just feel like Kevin Colbert is anointing Mason Rudolph without a competition or without any other, him having to earn it, we wouldn't like that. But knowing that, hey, he's open to Coach Tomlin making this decision, Coach Tomlin deciding who or which quarterback he wants. I just think for me, it just makes it better. It just makes it feel like it's an open book and like there is a legitimacy to it being an open competition for whoever we bring in versus it being a foregone conclusion. And that's my biggest thing when you're talking about not having the legitimate proven franchise quarterback or proven QB1. I just want true competition, not what we saw last year where it was Mason, you're getting all the real opportunities. Haskins, hey, man, we're going to throw you out there with the 2s and 3s and hope for the best. I don't want that. I want to see legit competition. I want Haskins to get those same opportunities that Mason's going to get in practice and in some of these preseason games so we can truly know who the heck we got. Unless we go the route of, like we said, hiring marquee guys for agency trade or even drafting a guy.
Yeah. Watch Mason just comes out and balls out and just proves everyone wrong.
But think about this.
I can see that. But think
about this, though. Hey, Deke, if he does that, is that a pro or is that a con?
That's a pro. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. It's just, I don't think anyone really has that much faith in him right now.
Right, and I'll say this, man.
Honestly, even the people that believe in him, that you can't be thinking he's going to be the franchise guy for the next 10 years, right?
The guys that believe in him have cautious optimism because you say to yourself, can a guy develop? Sure, you believe everybody can develop, but the question is how far they develop and how fast are they developing? Deke, I could develop you into an NFL linebacker. It might take you 20 years, though, from where we're at today. So it's like, man, they don't have 20 years to wait, right? So can Mason develop into QB1 or to a starter within the next couple of months? Well, that's the question that we're all trying to figure out. But if they think that he can, or if they feel that he has the prerequisites for that, then yeah, you are optimistic about it. You're excited about it, but you're cautious because you know that it's going to take work. It's going to take consistency. And that's the things that we really haven't seen in Mason's game is the consistency part. Now, since his rookie season, we've seen every time that he's come out there, he's continued to improve. He's continued to do some things that just look better. And we've highlighted those things. But at the same time, those are small sample sizes. Those are one-off games that we're talking about, not 4 or 5 weeks at a time or a full 17 game season plus postseason. We haven't seen that just yet.